Hello, everyone. Welcome to our program today, where we will be discussing Muslim Ummah back from the dead. So, before you begin to pass fatwas on the headline, please address all of them to our panelist, Mr. Aurangzeb Iqbal, as he is the mastermind of this headline. So, today I will welcome our panelists, Aurangzeb Iqbal and Sajid. How are you guys?
Alhamdulillah, I'm
Okay,
very
thank you. All
good.
good, thank
Thank you
you.
for inviting me to your fantastic show, Zumurad bhai.
Oh,
Likewise.
you guys are not guests. You are permanent residents of this program, and this program would not be possible if you guys
Have
did not
you
participate.
have you got that okayed by Preeti Patel that were permanent?
Oh, that depends. That depends on Pretty Patel's view of what she thinks of our antics on this group. And I think if she knew what we were doing, I think it would be barred in no time.
Yeah, this is what
So,
I'm saying.
coming to our today's program, today's topic, so we want to look at a couple of developments that have taken place. There has been a meeting of OIC, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, of the foreign ministers in Pakistan. It's a 2-day meeting, and we're going to look at some of the speeches that have been made, and I guess what everyone wants to know is the Prime Minister of Pakistan, what he had to say. Also, we are going to look at and bring into our discussion the United Nations General Assembly unanimously adopts texts on combating Islamophobia, um, such as discriminating travel bans, hate speech, targeting of girls and women for their dresses. So that's quite a major a positive for the Muslim Ummah. Also, I would like to mention in the OIC we have the Chinese Foreign Minister present as a guest. And without further ado, I'm going to take it to our panelists and place this discussion topic. Shall we begin with yourself, Aurangzeb?
Yes, absolutely. As
Are you
thank you,
volunteering?
thank you so much, Zumurad. And I think this is a very historic period with what's happening, what's currently happening. There appears to be a tectonic changing of the plates of spheres of influence, and the world has always depended on economic and political who the heavyweights were. And we've seen the last sort of 100 years, the West, in particular America, has been on the ascendancy, and they've felt that, and the record shows, they've gone into very many countries, invaded them, and the only countries that, as it shows, that they won't go into are those that have nuclear powers. So had Iraq and Libya and Syria and Afghanistan been nuclear powers, I've no doubt America would have stayed well away. So that in itself appears to be the deterrent. So all the more reason why there should be. But anyway, there's been a seismic change in the power shift towards the east, I believe, and I think China and Russia are aware to this, and they've realized that America has bullied the world for so long, along with the UK and Europe. And now they find themselves in difficulties because of the dependency, certainly of Germany and other European countries, on Russian energy needs. And China realizes that's a manufacturer; it needs energy needs. So, on an economic point of view, China has known that America was never its friend. Russia knows that America will never be its friend. And America has steadily, since the Cold War, fall of Berlin Wall, taken more and more NATO countries, which basically means it's a commerce, because the more countries that join NATO, the more arms that can be sold to them as percentage of their GDP. So China and Russia realize now that economically it makes sense for them to be buddies uh, and stand up to America and Europe and everything. And so I think there's going to be a seismic change, and then that then falls. And we were very, very lucky to have a leader of the caliber of Imran Khan, who's an honest broker, and I think that's accepted certainly throughout the world, regardless of what the West may say. Is an honest broker, and he's tried all his best to ensure that the whatever difficulties there were between Saudi and Iran and other countries, etc., are sorted and settled, much, I suppose, to the annoyance of the West, because the policy of the West has always been to divide and rule. So this OIC is coincided very, very well, and the three things that were on the agenda were the Ukraine, the war, the Kashmir issue, and Afghanistan. And to get that many countries to Pakistan for Imran Khan, as a few years ago, we all know Pakistan was seen as a pariah state, and for now, the Americans look to Pakistan, Russia looks to Pakistan, the OIC looks to Pakistan, because for once, alhamdulillah, we have an honest broker in Imran Khan that we should be very, very proud of.
Very well put, sir. Sajid, would you like to come onto this? Mike, over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I'd just like to say that Zeb Bai said that the Americans, of course, have bullied Muslim countries. I think that more so it's been the case that the Muslim countries have allowed themselves to be bullied. And this is purely down to, of course, the disunity that exists amongst the Muslim countries. So what I see now, of course, is an amazing situation where Muslims around the world, of course, Muslim countries can come together and actually be uniformed in their approach. And I think that's what's been lacking throughout history, throughout certainly the sort of several decades, where there hasn't really been a Muslim voice, if you agree or disagree. Who has been the Muslim voice for the Muslims? Has it been Saudi Arabia? I don't think they would be. They would say that they are. So I think for now, seeing Imran Khan being that charismatic leader who has actually been educated in the West, he's got all of the tool sets under his belt, which basically allows him to become a really great leader, to bring about some kind of transformation in the Muslim world, and bridging the gap between the West and the East. And I see that with him, and I hopefully, if he stays in power, he's got the tools, he's got basically the skill and the tenacity to be able to bring people together and make a positive change. There is a lot of problems inside of our Muslim countries. Forget about the West for 1 second. If we can sort those problems out, it's going to be a better thing for the rest of the world, not just for Muslim countries, because we can actually talk about cooperation, we can talk about trade, we can talk about commerce, we can talk about business. And I think as long as we start moving away from conflict and war, we're going to be benefiting. And that's the key thing here. That's the key message is, let's get away from conflict, let's get away from war, let's work together and actually bring about a more prosperous Muslim world, which in turn will actually make the whole world more prosperous.
I think, if I just interject here, Moradbhai, I honestly think that the Muslim countries, the Muppet leaders, are absolutely petrified of regime change. And we know that America has a whole department allocated billions in resources for regime change all around the world. If they don't like anyone, the country's invaded, the leaders are killed. And we've seen that so often in the last sort of, 100 years. And I think these guys are absolutely petrified of the big bully, America. And I really do see hope, inshallah, that this will be a change for the better, where other bullies are standing up to the bully. And hopefully this will open the way in Muslim countries for people to come to the fore on merit, as opposed to selected by America to do their bidding. So I hope, inshallah, that this is a change for the better, because I know when we talk about we often say bad things about the Arabs, But we can say bad things about the Arab leaders, but the Arab public has no say whatsoever. And I think all the Arabs, insofar as the public is concerned, they have genuine feeling for Muslims around the world and have genuine feelings for humanity. But the leaders that we have that are imposed by the West, and in particular America, they really are the enemy within.
I think I would agree with Zeb by
I'm
there.
going to add one of our guests, a panelist who's just joined us, Mr. Sultan Qureshi. So if you just bear with me, please. Hello, Mr. Qureshi. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
How are you?
Everyone, all the honorable guests up there.
Alhamdulillah.
Excellent, fantastic. So yeah, I hope you have been following the discussion. So I'm going to continue from this. Zeb Saab, Sajid Saab, you raised a point regarding Imran Khan as in the OIC meeting and the possible leader of the Muslim Ummah. I think they do kind of look up to him. They do accept him as being a man with being sincere towards helping the people and the Ummah. Now, when Imran began his speech, he referred to himself kind of coming into politics. One of the reasons being that to help the Ummah and the Islamophobia that he was seeing. And then he refers to the 9/11 incident, and then he does acknowledge and he does put it to the members that they have to take the blame as well for the last 20 years as the Muslims were being humiliated, targeted, and the whole all of these countries pretty much kind of accepted it silently. So if you guys would elaborate on that, Sultan Sahab, I would like to pass the mic over to you.
I heard the speech made by the Prime Minister Imran Khan. So what I would like to say is that, the OIC, it was made for some specific reasons because Muslim world has no say, a channelized say. So what I would say is that from today, what I feel is OIC has become vibrant and OIC is actually addressing the issues which are supposed to be addressed. So this is from now onward, I see the purpose of OIC. And the gentleman who brought all these Muslim leaders on the table and told them the core issues needs to be addressed, which is to stand with the weaker, with the poorer, with the affected ones. That's whole OIC, for the Muslim world I'm talking about specifically.
So, that's an excellent point that you make, Mr. Qureshi. Excuse me. I think it's also important to bring into discussion the attendance of the Chinese foreign minister. What do you guys feel? How important is that? And what are the indicators of this happening? Aurangzeb, would you please like to address this?
Yes. Yes, without a doubt, whether it's next 10 years or 15 years, the GDP of China is going to exceed America. And to be a superpower, you need a certain amount of wealth. That wealth will be within reach of China. China has come leaps and bounds over the last sort of 30, 40 years. It is, by all reckonings, a superpower. America was aware of this. And the fact that China is now beginning to strut its stuff in a good way on the international scene, I think it's a good sign to show the weakness of America and to show the other countries, those that are attending OIC, to realize that they do not have to be under the cosh of the Americans, that there is somebody else who will look after their interests.
No, excellent. Sajid, I'm going to come to you with this question.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, within the United Nations General Assembly, when the bill was being discussed, there were three countries who actually raised some objections. Um, it wouldn't take you too many guesses. India, France, and the EU raised objections to this. Whereas on the other hand, China, Russia, and all of the OIC members have kind of come together to support this. So I want you to make a comment regarding the three countries, and then accepting that what the positive role Russia played and China played in having this resolution passed.
So it's abundantly clear that there is two camps or two blocks basically in the world, and of course the first block is the Americas and the West, and of course the other block is Russia, China, and the like. And I think that obviously that this is now, I mean, going back to the point you made earlier on, it is a massive statement for China to appear on the same platform in Pakistan with Muslim countries. It is not just it's not a, we're a guest of honor here. This is a massive statement that they're making. Now, what you find, of course, is that, a superpower, when you have a superpower by your side, it makes a big difference in terms of your leverage and what you can do around the world, especially when you have the Muslim countries together. Because ultimately, China and the Muslim countries combined will be a formidable force in the future to come. But going back to your point, um, I think that there is reasons why countries dispute or reject certain claims, and I don't know why. For example, because ultimately, any form of racism basically should be fought and should be stood up against. Um, but from my perspective, the only thing I would like to say, the cynic in me tells me that let's see what happens when the first case comes about in terms of the proceedings against a particular group or a country in terms of Islamophobia being this particular law being actually tested, because the United Nations has been known for being toothless,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
they
it's.
affect.
I would say. I would say it's positive that at
It is.
least
It
there's
is.
an
Yeah.
acknowledgement at the international level that Islamophobia exists. So I think for that, yeah, definitely, I think credit must go, and I
But
think
the question is actually why would anybody refute that? Of course, every single person, any man and his dog know that Islamophobia exists
so. You mean India, France, and the EU?
everywhere. Yeah, yeah.
So it's the
Every
same EU who has Poland as its member, who's openly kind of boasting that we're not allowing any Muslims in.
the
Yeah,
interesting thing is, of course, the EU at the same time wrote letters to the United Nations, standing against the Uyghur Muslims being persecuted by the Chinese. So it seems like you can't pick and choose which fights you want to and which people you want to support. It's a bit strange. So I think a lot of it comes down to convenience. A lot of it comes down to timing, but a
or
lot of it comes.
shallowness on the part of the West. Would that be more
Yeah,
appropriate?
that's one way of putting it. But I would say actually that I think the West, of course, have really now have to get a grip with this problem. Islamophobia does exist, and of course, people have suffered, not just obviously in other parts of the world, but mainly in the West, and it's purely because people don't understand what is Islam effectively, and that's what it is. They are being, and I'll give you one example. Okay, I live in a rural, well, I call this Wiltshire area in the southwest of England, and now when I moved into my bungalow, um, m- I s- 3 months later, I was having a chat with my neighbor. He was about 75 at the time, and over the fence, and we were talking, and he said to me, he said to me, Sad, when you moved in here with your beard, I started to get a strange feeling, and I said, why is that then? And he said, well, It's because I watch the news and all I think is that people with beards and people that look Muslim and have Muslim names, do terrible things. And I said, "Look, Ron." His name is Ron. I said, "Look, Ron. what? So, what do you think?" That's like. He goes, "Yeah, my mind's completely changed." I said, "So again, I think we have to realize that is it the fault of the people of the West, basically, that they think like that because they have been brainwashed to a certain extent of what they see based on what they see on TV, what they read, yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I mean,
the
I think
question then
that's,
becomes is
yeah. Yeah, sorry, I'm going to let you finish.
the question then becomes is there is I think there's a sentiment to say actually the West the public potentially are not all at fault here because all they see of course is people doing wrong and all they see is that of course that there is a negativity or a let's say that Muslims are always known in the pejorative context and the
Yeah, I mean,
question becomes
yeah, yeah. I
Can
mean, I
I
mean,
can I can
one of the
I,
things,
can I
please,
just
please, yeah.
come in here? You know, it's no secret to more that you know that I used to write about the kind of things that Sajid is talking about in the Times newspaper, and they soon had enough of me and suspended me and then finally banned me. Same with LinkedIn, and same with the Israeli newspaper Haaretz, who recently now, again, I was one of the most liked commenters, posters, but
Yeah.
they felt that even though it's a left-wing paper, they felt that my sort of writing was too close to the bone. So what they want, what they are all geared to do is I think if you look from if you to imagine a bird's eye view, you could see the Earth. You'd see probably about half a dozen people who actually control the whole of the media, whole of the Western media is in the hands of six. So even the governments are actually scared of these media moguls. So these media moguls.
Maybe, Aurangzeb, maybe it's that type of talk that got you banned. But I just want to make a point that I am witness to all these times that they kind of suspended your account and banned you, and the attempts that were made
Yes.
to kind of demand an explanation. And at no point any of these platforms were able to give you an answer. In fact, they
No.
apologized to you,
Yes.
reinstated your account, and then suspended your account again.
Yes.
It's mind blowing. This.
yeah
Well,
is it
what I'm
because the
saying is that all this talk about the West, freedom of
Sorry,
speech.
Sajid. I think Sajid wanted to come in.
Sorry.
Sajid, what?
no I was just
Yeah.
going to say is it because Zebai is not towing the line. He's not basically
Exactly, that's what it is. So the
adhering to the
point I'm making
narrative.
is there is no such thing as freedom of speech.
Yeah, I think, and this is considering that they are criticizing Russia when we have videos of Ukrainians coming on to say that Ukrainian journalists have been disappearing, being murdered by the Ukrainian regime. But because they are democratic, you can't raise the question, and that kind of stuff gets you banned. It's amazing. Aurangzeb, please continue.
Yeah. So if you look at the media, is controlled by, I understand, about half a dozen CEOs. And they set the agenda as to, and in fact, if you remember, in the last war, I don't know why they call it war, the Israeli-Gaza war. It's not a war. One side's got a navy, army, air force, and the others have got stones and rocks, and they call it a war, which is a misnomer. And you'll remember, last year, I think it's about 500 international journalists wrote a letter to their employers saying, please, for God's sakes, let us report the truth. How can we see something, the suffering of the Palestinians, and you're asking us to report that we didn't see it, that the aggressors are the Palestinians? How can we do that? But again, because the media is controlled by the West, that kind of thing doesn't really see the light of the day. And what they will do is time and time again, if you ask anybody on the street, say, Palestinian-Israeli issue, whatever, what is it? And they'll say, yes, Hamas, because we're brainwashed. The public
Yeah,
has been
absolutely.
brainwashed in Europe and America that as soon as you mention Hamas, but Hamas only was created 30 years ago by the Israelis. So what's been happening in the previous, 44 years, 74 years, the problems were going on. Every single day I read the paper, one or two Palestinians, anywhere from between age of 13 and the last one we saw was an 80-year-old American Palestinian. I swear, you look at the picture, he was left on his side, head not touching the ground, with a blindfold, with his hands tied behind his back, and the soldiers sat there having a cigarette and talking to each other. And the guy died, and they left him there. They said, oh, we thought he was asleep. And had he not been American, dual national, that wouldn't even seen the light of day. These guys are getting away with murder on a daily basis. But when you look at the media, you would think that it's complicated. There's nothing complicated. You're killing them every single day. You're ethnically cleansing them every day. You're taking their land every day. In fact, today in Harrods newspaper was one of the judges who's ruling on ethnically cleansing or clearing about 8 villages. They want to clear. Now, one of the things Israel is able to do under the accords agreed with America and everything is that they can take any area of Palestine if it's in a firing range. So what they do is every now and again said, oh, we're creating a firing range, and that's it, everybody has to move. And that's fine. So they're clearing. And the judge is actually a settler. He's actually living on occupied land. Now, how on earth are you going to ask one thief to rule against another thief? It's not going to happen. And it's there in black and white in the Harrods newspaper. And people don't know because the West will know. And I honestly believe, and I get a bit passionate, as you can see, that if the West was to report on the Israeli atrocities, as they have done with what's happened in Ukraine on a back-to-back basis, Israel would cease to exist within a week.
Yeah, I think that's there is. I mean, that has been going on for how long now, and the number of people that are being
74 years.
killed. 74 years, and the Ukraine crisis.
24 days, 25 days. Yeah.
Yeah, less than that, I would say. But and it kind of exposes that. I'm going to come to Qureshi Saab on this. Qureshi Saab, the 3 countries, India, France, and the EU, raising objections towards this bill on Islamophobia. What would you say to that?
Okay. Basically, I would like to take you lords little back. The one thing I would add here is that America is no more a Chaudhry. That's for sure.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
So he is in his downfall phase. He is trying to maintain his value. So for that, he will do whatever he can. If you see that, that the other day somebody asked a question from a foreign secretary or a lady that to comment on Imran Khan's statement, and she said she refused to comment on that. Yeah. So why did that happen? Because they are trying to have a safe passage towards the Arabs. So OIC is basically is depending on Arabs, Pakistan, obviously, because Pakistan is a nuclear power, and Turkey, Malaysia. These are the comparatively stronger countries. So calling in, as we discussed about the foreign minister of China, I think that was intentionally done because he had a symbolic value. Obviously, it's Islamic. Yeah. So it has a tremendous value. And it's a message. It's a clear message to the West that we are no more going to be your puppet, or we are not going to be in your camp to face the brutality has been launched through the media by the West as in Islamic phobia.
And if I may add, yeah, I mean, in this, there are two statements which really kind of stand out to me from a non-Muslim powerful leader of the world. And regardless of what you think of him, those two statements mean a lot. Number one, where President Vladimir Putin um, is on record saying that the caricatures made of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not freedom of expression. So
Yes.
Exactly.
that's a huge kind of um, gratitude to Vladimir Putin for that. And secondly, Vladimir Putin has spoken to the Muslim world, the Arabs, the Iranians, and has reminded them that within your own Quran it states that to hold on to the rope of Allah. And
Allah.
why are you divided? So here are two leaders, China and Russia, trying to unite the Muslims, finish the differences, trying to finish this Yemen conflict, which I'm going to come on to, coming back to the OIC and Kashmir. And here they are trying to finish this to have a more peaceful, harmonious world. And then we have the other part of the world, which is trying to fuel these differences, trying to divide the Muslims around the world and in other developing countries as well. I mean, Africa, let's not
Okay.
forget
Malik
what
Sahab,
state they're in.
great development happened, which I am very pleased and happy. You know that Mohammed bin Salman, although he is
Yeah.
not a very old, experienced politician type of person, but he foresighted the actual real face behind the face of America,
Mm.
and he sensed that. By sensing that, he actually kind of withdrawn his ideology from America towards the, like, if you see that the Chinese the president is alleged to go to Saudi in I think straight after Ramadan,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
even they're
Mhm.
sorting out the issues and conflicts with Iran, even Yemen. So basically, this is what was needed way back behind. But Alhamdulillah, at least it's happening, started happening now, which will lead the Muslim world. Obviously, don't forget, we are the neighbor to China. We are a kind of neighbor to Russia. So these are our immediate neighbors.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And also I think we cannot forget the fact here that we are looking at the Muslim world here, and we get this feeling that they are becoming united. But I mean, and I've always been of the view that it takes a leader to unite all these fragmented groups.
I
And
was gonna
could it
come there.
be the impact of Imran Khan to have done this?
I was gonna come there.
Okay,
I
right,
think
you continue. Sorry.
yeah, whether somebody likes or not, I was gonna give this credit. Like I would say, like the most of the credit goes to Imran Khan.
Of
By
course.
looking back his speech in United Nations, obviously that speech can blow like a heart and the mind of the Muslims, because he truly, you would say, he truly actually, I'm running out of a word,
Represented Islam.
a true representation of Islam. Well, that's
Yeah.
what he did in the United Nations. So
Yeah. I
that's
mean,
where
and also,
the
yeah. Mhm.
started
Sorry,
gathering up. That's
yeah,
where the thing was built up.
and also here we see that the Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov has written to Imran Khan and acknowledging that we recognize you as the leader of the Ummah. So could this be the sentiment around the world? There was a video I was going to share with you guys that I couldn't upload because my laptop seems to go AWOL as soon as I go I go live. And in this video, I think this is in Morocco, I believe, so Nigeria, that one of the imams in the Friday sermons has actually talked about Imran Khan and his efforts to have the Islamophobia recognized, and the day being set, the day when in New Zealand, who were claiming that there was no security in Pakistan, and there were these Muslims slaughtered in this kind of a liberal country, as we would say. Now, on the other
If I
hand,
have to
what
use one sentence to elaborate Imran Khan's character, I would say that he actually diagnoses the disease within the Muslim world. So he is the one who diagnosed.
absolutely, yeah, yeah, I'm going to Sajid. I'm going to come to you.
Yeah, I was
Coming
thinking
back,
to
but okay.
Thanks very much. No, it's very enlightening to hear obviously what's being said so far. So it's really good.
So
I think
coming
I
coming
think
back to yeah,
yeah
coming back to the OIC, I'm going to put a
yeah
question. You can
yeah
still address what's being discussed.
uh-huh
And in this, I would like you to touch upon that Saudi Arabia's foreign minister has made a speech in which he has acknowledged that India move to remove article in which it gave him its autonomy, removing that was wrong. So, if you could please touch upon that, and other guys feel free to jump into this. Sajid, mic's over to you.
yeah. Again, this is just an example of when you come together and as one block, you have lots more leverage, and this is the point about basically making things happen in the world where there are injustices taking place, where there is basically you know wherever there's crime being committed, there's all sorts of problems being committed by the other party. Having, of course, people together, it means you can use leverage, and this is such a key point. And I think it's just uh, basic politics, really. And I think going back to the earlier point, which was, is Imran Khan the actual driver in all of this? Is he the main driver? I think he's the driver because, of course, he looks good and he talks good and he's great. However, I think the framework which has been set around him is Russia and China to make it possible. I think alone it's probably not feasible, but having those superpowers around him to orchestrate what is happening and what is going to happen is actually by the Russians and by the Chinese,
you're
and
right.
that's what's made it
I agree on
possible.
that.
I completely agree. So one thing I said right at the beginning was the economy plays a massive, massive role. So China and Russia know that if they're on one side, along with the 57 Islamic countries, you form a huge bloc, a huge bloc. And I think that realization is beginning to dawn on America and Europe, which is why Boris Johnson went to Saudi to ask them to up the production of oil. This is why the £400 million was paid for Nazneen
Aurangzeb,
Ratcliffe.
sorry, I just have a quick question. So, as they were trying to up the oil, do we know what the Saudi response was? Any
Yeah,
idea?
the Saudis' immediate was no, but since then they've reversed their position. They're going to pump billions in because obviously, again, at the end of the day, it's all about money. It's all about money. They've got it underground. They need to pump it up. They spend billions and make trillions. So it's at the end of the day, it's business. But what I'm saying is, you look at Nazneen. That debt was acknowledged by UK. They knew it had to be paid, and they waited until now when they needed Iranian oil, despite all the sanctions. They go back, cap in hand, and say, please, we'll remove the sanctions. We'll give you the £400 million as well. They never mentioned the interest. It must be huge, colossal interest because it's been in the UK banks for so long. They'll have paid all that because now they realise that without energy, the country cannot function.
Yeah, and I think with the Saudis also speaking with the Chinese, I think there's a huge danger to the petrodollar collapsing if
Yes,
the agreements kind of are put in place. I think Russia is speaking to other states to take payment of petrol in the
yes.
Chinese currency, and I mean, initially they were discussing the Saudis taking payment in the Chinese currency, but I think Russia
Yuan,
also
yeah.
the yuan. So I think Russians are also kind of advocating this as well. And if all of this happens, I think then we will see that yes, Europe in itself, its dependency on oil, Russia and the Middle Eastern countries kind of being in line, or on the same wavelength, they become a huge
Where the
power.
credit really goes to Imran is that hitherto before, the West, for the last sort of 200 years or so, has been, without even making an effort, has been able to divide and rule Muslims and make them
Yeah.
fight one another. Iran, Iraq fighting, even so far as Pakistan having 4 wars, which they could ill afford, neither could India, with Bangladesh seceding, causing chaos around the world by divide and rule, and having this and building up this fear and loathing of the other. Again, mental brainwashing. And now they see the OIC come together, and hopefully, inshallah, they realize that at the end of the day, when we sit down and talk, there's more that unites us than divides us.
Yeah. So I mean, it's
Exactly.
a huge, it's a huge positive. Krishi Saab, I'm going to come to you on this. I mean, it's a huge positive statement that there's actually now a possibility with the Saudis themselves acknowledging that the Yemen conflict, the Yemen issue needs to be resolved, because they are, the Yemeni people are suffering so terribly in terms of the hunger, the starvation, and the destruction that is within the country. Can you please elaborate on that? That if the Yemeni conflict is resolved, what that means for the Middle East, Iran, and Saudi Arabia? And sorry, I'm going to just add on to this that the Syrians are already speaking to the Saudis as well. So, so there seems to be a genuine, a strong effort to resolve these issues within the Muslim world. What would you say to that, Gracious?
Okay, when there is an instability in any country, no matter how rich the country is, the panic is still there. You will be utilized, and you will be misused by the others, by the bigger powers. So there'll be more buyer of the weapons and all that. So that was the whole game in the world. America basically played. He threw the people into the war, and then he wanted to sell his weapons and armors and all that. So the Yemen, okay, if we go into the deep bottom of these issues, I don't see a big issue.
No.
These are very minor things. They are like they are basically fighting, I would say, on a cake. Like there is no core issues involved in that.
Yeah, I mean, Krishi sir, I'm just going to add in there before I forget. I mean, if Vladimir Putin can bring the Chechens to the table, embrace them, incorporate them within the army, Yemenis are fellow Muslim brothers.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, why you think there is a pain in their tummies? Because they can see they are going to get together, they are going to unite, they are going to solve their issues on the table now. That's the whole problem they are facing, even India or West or America or you name it.
Yeah.
So
this,
because
Absolutely.
they have turned to solutions. They have turned to
yeah, I was
solutions.
just going to add basically. I think Qureshi, by that the key word is dialogue, which basically
Absolutely.
there was an iota of dialogue taking place, and that's the key thing here, because people were talking on other people's behalves. Now, what's happening now, of course, is that people are directly speaking to each other with the support of genuine brokers like Imran Khan, and it will make a big difference. Going back to your earlier point, I think that the Saudi and the West, or the America affair, it is far too down the road. I think that potentially, if it's like a husband and wife, and that's what it's like, and very close, you've told all your secrets to the partner, and I think if there's going to be a divorce, it's going to be very bloody and very painful for Saudi Arabia. Because of why? Because of several reasons. One of the key reasons is that where is the assets of the Saudis? Yeah.
Just to
who is giving the protection to the ruling family?
Sorry, just that if the divorce is going to happen, if one side of the person, the whole family is behind that person, I don't think it's going to be that worse. So the Muslim world is going to be.
The question is, if you look at the dynamics of that country, for example, the ruling family, you can't even say a bad word about them. And the question is, of course, is that it's all about retaining power. And how is it that they are able to retain power? Who's providing that? Who's providing that ammunition? Who's providing that support and that mechanism? It is the West.
Yes.
And they will never allow that, because if as soon as that is withdrawn, you can imagine what happens. Yeah, they will not. But they're
China.
They're basically it'll be like like these programs. It'll be like a trap door. They'll be gone.
There is a shift happening. That's the whole reason Saudis are trying to go into the Chinese camp. Obviously, they will substitute that.
The question is, who does the Saudis trust more? Is it the Americans or is it the Chinese?
That's Sajid, I think they'll go with the money.
Would it be a no-brainer?
First of all, everyone seeks for their own personal interest. First of all, their own national interest.
But isn't again? That's the goal of every nation, isn't it? To expand territory, to
it never used to be till Imran Khan came into power in Pakistan, but now it is happening. Pakistan is watching their own trust. Sorry to divert the conversation, but this is the repercussions we are facing in the form of no confidence motion, removal of Imran Khan. So these are the consequences you might be talking about. Obviously, this is a democratic country and there is a kingdom in Saudi Arabia. But the internal issues, they should be, as Imran Khan said today in his speech, that we never had a uniform foreign policy.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
a really, really good point you raise. And I was going to bring this up towards the end, just to speed things up and heat them. This no what confidence against Imran Khan. It is being claimed that there is a strong evidence available that the CIA and RAW and Mossad have pumped money to have Imran Khan removed. I'm going to take. Let's just go there. Let's deal with this question. What would you guys say to that?
I would not buy that. I don't want to use a tough word for that. Okay, if you are not capable enough to deal with the issues, you cannot blame anybody else. The enemy is enemy because he wants to damage you. It's you how to deal with. So it's within the country. I would say right in the beginning when the election took place in 2018, and he became into the power, and he distributed the tickets within these what shall I say to these people? These stupid
the ones who are always in power, who kind of shift from party to party.
Yeah, these winning horses. So
I just like to ask a question. Basically, so Pakistan, Imran Khan does not need enemies.
That's where I had my. Yeah, that's where
Sajid, yeah, I just want to see Sajid. What was that, please? Can you?
Sorry, what I was just saying.
Can you finish that one?
We're talking about enemies. Talking about enemies.
Sajid, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Hello. Yeah, can you hear me?
Hello? Yes, Sajid.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you. What I was saying was that when you're talking about enemies, there are just based on what I've been reading and watching, Pakistan don't need any enemies. They've got far too many inside their own borders.
There you go.
And it's just
that's where the cleanup operation needs to be having.
Absolutely. I mean, I've always differed with Qureshi Sahab on this. We always seem to have a differing view on this. That yes, we seem to suffer these calamities of the internal ones who kind of put themselves on sale. But I believe that's the case because we're a weaker nation, and I make my point to that is that Russia, when this eastward expansion of NATO was taking place, Russia couldn't do anything except to object. But until it became strong enough and it sent its tanks into Georgia, what, and this is where I have always disagreed with Qureshi Saab, obviously with great love and respect, that I am of the view that Pakistan or Imran Khan suffered this because Pakistan was on a very weak footing. It was there for the taking. But I think it's
My
becoming
last
stronger.
question, please.
Yeah, Qureshi
This
Saab, mic over
whole
to you.
drama happening in Pakistan, who is going to vote to disqualify Imran Khan or to pass this no confidence motion? Who will vote? Is America coming there to vote? Is India coming there to vote to disqualify him or to uh, success the no confidence motion? It's the people who he chose himself. A wrong decision taken by him.
No, but I mean, could we really argue? Because I don't really want to divert too much off this topic. Um, I mean, could we really argue that Imran Khan had this kind of independent members of parliament that he could put two people to be elected because they couldn't. The Pakistani public doesn't have the education, doesn't have the training. If I can respectfully say it, to recognize that these people are not good for the nation, but they still keep voting for the same people. So I think Imran Khan
Yeah,
deserves
it's a
some
Fair enough.
some
Fair enough.
lenience there.
This
yeah.
whole,
That he's was
episode,
handicapped.
this whole
Mhm.
episode basically exposed the opposition
Mhm.
as it is and the people with the party. So
Yeah.
at least now Imran will have a better hand, and the all dirty eggs are in one bucket now.
Yeah. So I mean, now coming with the limitation of time, I'm going to come to Sajid, and then I'm going to go to Aurangzeb. Sajid, Kashmir with the OIC, it's kind of with its stance now. Where do you see the Kashmir issue going with this now? What's your view?
I would say again, this is Kashmir is just one problem, one issue, which is it's a whole host of issues. This is just one of them. And again, like I said, because when you come together, you have more leverage. You can actually sit down and actually work with India. Because ultimately, when India sees, of course, that you have China behind Pakistan, you have Russia behind Pakistan, India, of course, will talk and they will be more flexible. It clearly is because it must be that way. Otherwise, India, of course, realize that just by looking at Ukraine and seeing what's happened there, that anything can happen. And the last thing India wants, of course, is to be on their own and without any support. And that's what so the Ukrainian crisis is actually a lesson for lots and lots of countries that currently are on in the same camp as America. And I think
Is
that
spot on.
India will actually be really, really thinking, hold on a second here, guys. What exactly do we want to, what should we actually sit down and have a look at our strategy? And ultimately, there was a famous person, I think it was a writer, Bastian, his name was, and he said that if goods don't cross borders, soldiers will. And
Yes.
that's the key thing. We have to remember that cooperation and economics is going to be the answer to avoid and get rid of this long standing issue of just money being wasted year upon year on defense and just basically and having I don't even know how long that border is, but it's extremely long. And to actually maintain that defense line, it's just it doesn't work for anybody. It doesn't work for India. It doesn't work for Pakistan. And if we can start to move away from that conflict kind of mentality into a kind of more business-like, economic model, it would just be beneficial for them. I don't understand it. I think it's the question then becomes is who is actually playing the cards here? Is it other
Yeah.
and India, of course, are in different camps and of course want to appease others. And so I think with Kashmir obviously being a very hot topic, I think this will be one topic that Imran Khan wants to solve. And I think apparently Trump offered to fix that problem too when Imran Khan went to America.
Yeah, and I'm going to, on that note, I'm going to come to Aurangzeb, a Kashmiri who has devoted much of his efforts to raising the awareness of the Kashmir issue. Aurangzeb, in terms of where India is standing now, it's kind of in a no man's land. It can't go completely with the US, and it can't really kind of toe the line that Russia is going with and China. What would you say to this in terms of where
From
Kashmir stands?
from Howdy Modi, it's become Hi Modi. If you is not exactly the flavor of the month with America. On the one hand, America is saying we will sell you arms, but India doesn't want arms; it wants cheap energy. And Putin said, "I will sell you cheap oil." So that is a slap in the face for America. Modi is really is in no man's land, because, as Sajid has eloquently said, that there's a very long border, 1 million troops just in Kashmir. The cost of that in itself will be colossal. And we know the morale of those that are in Kashmir is very, very low. They have very little to eat. If they do get food, it's very, very basic. And when a few get killed, it lowers the morale of the others. And then you've got China on the other side, in the Ladakh, causing infiltrating, and it really is. And the thing is, I see Modi caught between headlights of an oncoming car, because it doesn't know which way to turn. On the one hand, is, as I say, not flavor of the month with America. And then you've got situation with China on one side, an enemy encroaching on disputed territory, so to speak. And then you've got the influence. And what's happened in the last few years is, from Pakistan being labeled a terrorist pariah state, has completely reversed to Modi and India being. It was unimaginable that these tables would turn so quickly, and now the whole world is calling Modi a fascist leader.
And credit goes to Imran Khan.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean
Of course it goes to him. But now the goodwill that India had slowly built up, it's completely dissipated, completely gone. And again, tables have been turned. And now with the OIC, India finds itself in a very, very vulnerable position. So it can boast all it wants to its ignorant local population, but in the outside world, it has no respect whatsoever in terms of how the country is being run. What it did for those when he gave 4 hours notice, when the first pandemic, 4 hours notice to get out of cities, and people walked hundreds of miles back to their villages, and we saw the police peppering them with chlorine water and all sorts of things. They were shunned from villages. They couldn't eat. So many died. So internally, there's a massive bleeding going on in India, and this will be music to the ears of the likes of us, but this will be a knife to the heart of India when all the Muslim countries get together and say, "Hey guys, enough is enough. This must stop." And hopefully, inshallah, if Yemen gets sorted, Saudi and Iran get sorted, and with what Erdogan and Imran Khan are doing, bring the Ummah together. And this is why I say that Ummah it was always a sleeping giant. And I think the West has always known that if Muslims combine, it's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah,
and we are coming back from the dead.
No.
We've come to keep them sleeping.
Yeah, to keep that.
Yes.
I mean, we unfortunately we've come to the end of our program time limitation. It's been a really very fruitful discussion.
Says that when there is a will, there is a way. So it
Inshallah.
has to be sorted on the table. And inshallah, I can see not near future, but these things are proceeding towards a good end, inshallah.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
Inshallah. And on that note, we will take our leave for today. And do not forget to join us on Thursday. So this program will be twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday, 9 p.m. Do not forget to join us. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Take
Join
care.
the studio for the food as well.
Yeah, indeed.